Hello and welcome to Security Scan. I am Vishal Dahiya, and this week we will talk about Kamov Ka-226T. Now, the Ka-226T is a light twin-engine multi-role helicopter manufactured by Russian helicopters. It can be used for surveillance, reconnaissance, search and rescue mission, and transportation of cargo and troops as well. It is designed for operations in hard-to-reach areas and tough climatic conditions as well. Its maximum speed is 250 kilometers per hour and maximum takeoff weight is around 3,600 kilograms. India and Russia had conducted an intergovernmental agreement in 2015 for 200 Ka-226T helicopters estimated to cost over $1 billion. Now, Ka-226T is being looked at as a replacement for the aging Cheetah and Chetak fleets of Indian Army and Indian Air Force. For more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of guests today in the studio. Let me start by introducing these guests to you, beginning with the Retired Major General Ravi Arora, the Chief Editor of Indian Military Review, who is with us here. We also have with us Retired Lieutenant General B.S. Pawar, President of Northern Region of the Helicopter Society of India and also former ADG of Army Aviation Corps. And we have with us Retired Air Commodore B.S. Siwach, the Director General of Aviation Safety India. Welcome all of you gentlemen to Rajya Sabha TV studios. Let me begin with you, General Arora, and let's try and look at things in perspective. You know, when we talk about Ka-226T and when it is said that this is being seen as a replacement for Cheetah and Chetak, fleets of IAF and Indian Army as well. What are we trying to look at? Why are we replacing them and why is it required?
I'll start where you left. You know, you mentioned that these are now obsolete and so we have to replace them. First, let me salute the professional and the brave pilots of the Indian Army and the Indian Air Force and the engineers and the technicians who are still making the Cheetah and Chetak fly every day, maintaining troops in the Siwach at 22,000 feet above mean sea level. It requires every bit of professionalism to do that, knowing that these machines, some of them are over 45 years old. We first started inducting them in the 1970s. And in 2001, the Army identified the requirement to start replacing these machines. And it's been, if you take the time from that time, it's been 18 years. It's been 14 years since the time the tender was put out. 2 tenders were cancelled over a period of 7 years itself. And the replacement of the utility helicopters are still not in sight. Imagine, Army and Air Force and Navy have got 12 different types of helicopters. Some latest types of helicopters we are inducting, that is the advanced light helicopter, the light combat helicopter, the Apache, the Chinook, and the Sikorsky will come in. But when it comes to utility helicopters, which are being flown in the largest of numbers, there are 859 helicopters in the Indian Armed Forces when you compare them with 1,500 fixed-wing aircraft. So imagine such a large number of helicopters, out of which the maximum are utility helicopters. They require replacement. The Ka-226 has been selected. It has undergone trials. It has been found fit. And now we are over that hump of 10-12 years when there was paralysis in the decision-making process, because of which operational readiness has suffered. The government has decided that they will have a single vendor purchase from Russia. They are offering this helicopter to be made in India. After our requirements are complete, we can export it. The cost was going up. Now local manufacture will mean costs can be controlled. It also means our industry. We must be spending 7,000 crore rupees on the acquiring and manufacture of these helicopters. But our industry will benefit to the tune of 40,000 crores because they will develop an ecosystem which will be utilized in other defense and civil industries, and it will be utilized for export also.
And there will be several vendors, Indian vendors.
This is a deal we must sign without any waste of time. The pilots of our armed forces, they deserve it. They deserve to get the best. It is a machine tried out. acceptable to everybody. So no further delay should be acceptable.
Okay, no further delay, and we need these machines ASAP. We have two, helicopter pilots with us. In fact, General Pawar and Commodore Siwach as well. Let's take their views also. General Pawar, in terms of this being seen as a replacement of the aging fleet of Cheetah and Chetak, the need of the hour is to get it done right now.
Let me just give you a little background. In the last 15 years, 3 trials have taken place to replace the Cheetah Chetak. In the last trial, which was done in 2012-13, there was a Eurocopter 565 helicopter, and there was this Kamov. The trials were completed. Both the helicopters met all requirements, that is, as per the GSQR and ASQR. Joint team of Air Force and Army did the trials. It is only at that time, before the decision could be taken, that between the the President of Russia and Prime Minister, this deal took place, Make in India.
The intergovernmental agreement was signed.
Intergovernmental agreement, and which was signed then subsequently. Now the nodal agency for that is the HAL, which the formal agreement was signed in 2017. It was expected that the contract would be signed last year, sometimes in the beginning of last year. It's not happened. Everything else has been done. Technical evaluation has been completed. Today, it's a nightmare to maintain the existing fleet of Cheetah. I'm not talking of Chetaks, because Chetaks are hardly flying now. It is with the Navy only. And this delay, it is actually at times one wonders, why this delay of 1 year in signing the contract? Everything else is okay. The Russians have even gone ahead, Russian helicopters, and gone ahead, signed a MOU with 5 local companies for manufacture of assemblies. Some of them are like Bharat Forge, like Dynamic Technologies, and there are like 2-3 others. With 5 of them, they're already going ahead. This was done in February during the Aero India show. Therefore, I think with every passing day, we are allowing a very old and vintage and dangerous situation to arise, where these helicopters can fall out of the sky anytime. Okay. And therefore, I hope during this visit of the Prime Minister to Russia, both of them are able to, clarify any issues that are there, and the HAL
move further ahead.
And the contract gets signed.
Okay. Okay, let me bring in Commodore Siwach here. From your point of view, you're also a helicopter pilot, and from the Air Force's point of view as well. Do you agree with what General Pawar and General Arora is saying, that time has come now to immediately and ASAP go ahead for the replacement of the Cheetah fleet and the Chetak fleet, both of which are almost obsolete?
I fully agree with General Arora and General Pawar. The replacement of Chetak and Cheetah is long overdue, and like General Arora said, hats off to our technicians and pilots who have been maintaining and flying these obsolete machines like MiG-21, 23, 25, 27 series, which have also been long overdue for replacement. Cheetah also have been long overdue for replacement. And it's a very, very heartening news that the Kamov Ka-226 turbomecha helicopter is likely to be inducted. And we are very hopeful that during the Prime Minister's visit, this deal is finalized and contract is signed, and the helicopters are delivered at a on a very highest priority, because this Cheetah, because it's a vintage, you can call it now 60s manufacture, there have been a number of fatal accidents, there's a failure rate is increasing, the maintenance problems are galore, and it's a very, very old technology, you see. So the crying need, you can call it, for the replacement, and it had taken, decision makers have continued to delay it for many, many years. Some earlier Eurocopter and Bell, their contract was about to get through, but then it was again cancelled, and again the process started. And now hopefully after having completed every aspect of it, we should go ahead with the procurement of the 200 helicopters, and it's going to be a big opportunity for India because it's going to be made in India. There's a technology transfer element into this, and they also agreed to upgrade the engines. Earlier they are flying with the different Rolls-Royce engines, but now it is going to turbo mecha engines, which are very powerful and which will be able to operate at Siwach and in high temperature, which is our requirement. So earlier this helicopter come, better it will be for the Air Force, Army, and hopefully Navy also may join this particular,
Okay.
purchase.
You indicated towards some of the features of Ka-226T. Let's look at them in detail, and let's start with General Pawar here. General Pawar, this is twin-engine multi-role helicopter, which is going to be useful in tough weather conditions as well as all kind of terrain. But what else does it pack in terms of its features, specifications? What does Ka-226T has?
See, the Ka-226T, first of all, it's got some features which are better than some of the features which single engines have. Therefore, before I say that, it has already operated and landed at the highest helipad, that is Siwach 19,800, which is Sonam.
Okay.
Which is any helicopter that go and land there, that meets all our requirements, whatever are there. It is an aircraft which will have night flying capability and it will compatible with the night vision goggles of generation 3. It has got an autopilot, which single engine aircrafts don't have. This has got an autopilot, which is a big advantage for the pilots, especially when they're flying in high altitude. Secondly, you asked me earlier about the contra-rotating rotors. Remember that when there is no tail, as you go higher and you're flying in high altitudes, you run out of a rudder, which is based on your tail direction. Because if the rotor is rotating like this, the fuselage will go like that, and it's the tail rotor which keeps it like this. So when you go, you run out of your collective, which is at the highest, which takes you up. You can run out of that. This caters for that position, that aspect, and therefore your situation of running out of a rudder at those high altitudes not there, which is a big advantage.
Okay.
Secondly, the type of helipads that you have on like Sonam, it's like a matchbox. When you land there, if I have a tail which is less behind, I don't have a tail rotor, it's an advantage for me. It's an advantage for people to go around the helicopter. Because there have been accidents when in a very limited space, someone is trying to go from behind and get into this thing, it can walk into a rotor. That's another one. Then it's got a health monitoring system on board. This one has got. It can take 2 line casualties. This is a larger cabin. It can take 2 line casualties where all other single engine helicopters can take only 1 line casualty.
1 line casualty.
It has capacity, because of its 2 engines, to carry more weight in higher altitudes compared to the other aircraft.
Okay.
So I find there are a lot of advantages. All those advantages have been tested. We have found them that they are available on this helicopter. The only thing left is sign the contract.
Okay. General Arora, you've been to, the manufacturing unit there in Russia as well. So from your perspective, in addition to what General Pawar is pointing out in terms of the search and rescue missions and, transportation of troops and cargo utilization as well, how do you see the specifications and the features of Ka-226T with comparison to what we have right now?
As far as flying features go, he has brought them out. But I would like to talk about the other advantages we are getting. You see, this deal is going to be for 200 helicopters, 40 of which will be supplied in pre-assembled condition, ready to fly away from Russia. 160 will be made here. Out of that, they have promised that 100 helicopters will be made with at least 30 to 40% indigenous content. This means an ancillary industry will be raised. When Russian helicopters came to India for Aero India this year, they signed MOUs with a number of Indian companies. They were sourcing them. They were trying to find out who can make the landing gear, who can make the fuselage, who can make other things. So they have been doing their homework. Even the plant where the tools and machinery is to be made and brought to India, it's already at work. They are sure that the contract will be signed any day now. Now look at these machines being manufactured in India. There are a number of phases. First, of course, is that the ready-made helicopters are brought in here. Second is the Russians will supply the raw materials and other components which are required for assembling some of the helicopters in India without their manufacture in India. The third is transfer of technology, training, raising of the infrastructure, maintenance. And then the last stage is the helicopters which are to be assembled or made in India. Now this will go on for 8 years. It will develop a helicopter ecosystem, manufacturing ecosystem. Although HAL already has it in the manufacture of ALH and other variants of the ALH. But here is a different kind of helicopter.
Okay.
The engines are being sourced from France, the Arius engines. I do not know what will be the terms of that. This is engine technology is something which India requires very badly. And hopefully there will be offsets from this, and our aero engine industry will also see the beginnings of the birth of this aero engine industry will take place.
Okay.
The skills required, no company in India today can manufacture a helicopter by itself. That was the problem of acquiring helicopters through the Make in India route so far. Even the strategic partner system which the Indian government has evolved and approved, it's very difficult to carry out assessment of a company as to what kind of skills they have. You can judge them by their financial muscle. You can judge them by their other industrial strengths, but no one has the experience to make them. This is something which will bring in skill and experience in making aviation assets. And when it comes to exports, although it will take 8 years for our requirements to be met of 200 helicopters, hopefully we can replicate this kind of manufacturing and start exporting helicopters from India.
Okay, so that's the eventual, goal out there. Let me bring in Commodore Siwach here. From the Indian Air Force's point of view, as General Pawar has pointed out, as to what the Army might have been looking for in terms of the utilization and the features which Ka-226T has. So from the IAF's point of view, how does Ka-226T fits in the IAF's scheme of things?
You see, this helicopter is capable of operating at high altitudes, and where we require in Siwach and glaciers, Indian Air Force along with the Indian Army has already been operating for a number of years. And definitely the Cheetahs and the Mi-17s, etc., which have been operating on those areas. So this will be a major boost for the high altitude operations usually conducted. Next is high temperature conditions also. High temperature, you appreciate that with high temperature rising, the weight carrying capability of the helicopter comes down. So this helicopter engines are capable of operating under high temperature conditions. So that's another big feature. Then it has got multi-function display, automatic flight control system, which bring down the stress fatigue levels of the pilots and accuracy in flying and accomplishing the mission with precision.
Okay.
So that's another important area. Then of course it requires very small area. Also very interesting point about this helicopter is that they have a modular cabins, along the cockpit. Modular cabins are attached. So for different roles, different kind of cabin, and that you can fly even without cabin. So you can carry out some awkward loads underslung, which becomes, it can be used as a crane. So it's a multi-role, multi-purpose, proven helicopter which meets our requirement. It's got sophistication, it's got good both day and night capability, even ADOS weather, it's got weather radar, everything is there.
Okay.
What a pilot can ask for. And it's definitely going to be a good helicopter, and definitely we need to acquire it at the earliest.
Okay. General Pawar, looking at the TOT aspect and Make in India aspect, as General Arora was elaborating on it earlier, and how it could go ahead and help in building that ecosystem in terms of us to have that capability, the technology to manufacture these kind of helicopters on our own and then maybe further export in the future as well. So in that aspect, how can this project be helpful?
See, first of all, before I go to that, as far as the engines are concerned, it's not an area of concern. We are already, HAL has already signed a JV with Safran. Turbomeca is a part of Safran, where we are already manufacturing Turbomeca engines in India.
Okay.
Okay, you are manufacturing for your ALH, you are manufacturing for the LCH, you are manufacturing for the LUH, which should come into service now. The LUH is another light helicopter, which will be ready this year, which again Army and Air Force is taking, and they are pressing for this. So I don't find engines a concern. It's also a Safran engine. So once we have a deal, I'm sure HAL will work out the deal with them because this is a HAL project.
Okay.
As far as the TOT is concerned, like I told you, the 5 during this Aero India, they already signed MOUs with 5 companies. And our companies which have been signed with, I'll take example of Dynamic Technologies. You know, they're already making parts for Chinook and Apache. So where is the problem in making parts for an aircraft which has been operating with the Indian Navy, similar type? The Ka-31 and the Ka-28 having counter-rotating rotors.
It will further refine their skills.
We have been operating those helicopters for the last 20 years, 25 years. So we have that technology is available with us. Certainly, many more companies. For example, you know, we keep on saying HAL is making. No. HAL makes, let's say, ALH. But it's got 100 subsidiary companies helping it. Someone is making the landing gear, someone is making some wire, someone is making the radios, someone is making someone else. So this ecological system will get, and all.
So the entire ecosystem will develop further.
And where is going to develop? Not in HAL location. They have come out with a new location in Tumkur, which is away from Bangalore. That's where this entire ecosystem is going to develop.
Okay.
Which means jobs for people around. Look at the number of companies getting involved. And if the naval NUH, naval utility also comes through, we'll have a market for 400-500 helicopters here itself.
Okay. So clearly there is a lot of scope out there. Concluding comments from you, General Arora, in terms of how do we move ahead in terms of both aspects, fulfilling the needs and requirements in terms of what the Indian Air Force needs, Indian Army needs, or maybe as General Pawar was pointing out, Indian Navy as well for the NUH, the Naval Utility Helicopter, and also that developing that ecosystem so that we can be self-reliant from here onwards in future.
Considering we have so many different types of helicopters, I would be quite happy to see the Ka-226 coming into the Army and Air Force and also for the Navy for commonality purposes. Right now, even the Chetak and Cheetah is the only helicopter other than ALH which is common amongst the 3 services. The Air Force, of course, has many other types. These are the Me series and what we are getting from the Americans now. So this Ka-226, which will take again up to 8 years to be fully inducted into the forces, has been found fit. Let's get it quickly. But in conclusion, I would say let's not forget the Cheetah and the Chetak, which has served us so well. Some of us are very emotionally connected with it. In my whole service of 37 years, maximum I traveled was in the Cheetah and Chetak helicopters, and I'm sure the other officers here as well. And I want to, give me half a minute, I want to explain to you. Once, when I was a young officer, we were given 2 Cheetah helicopters to patrol the border at the time when our Prime Minister Indira Gandhi had been assassinated, and there was a fear that Pakistan may try something. 2 helicopters were provided, and we were told they are available to operate from dawn to dusk. The pilots were allowed to fly only 6 hours. That is the limit.
Okay.
Those are the regulations. If you want to fly more than 6 hours, a different set of pilots would be provided. And this machine can fly for 200 hours. You can send it back to Nasik for overhauling, and you will be provided a replacement which will fly for 200 hours. And that was the kind of service which Cheetahs and Chetaks provided.
Okay.
And, good luck to the Army and Air Force with the Ka-226T.
Okay, so there's quite a lot of emotions attached with the old aging Cheetah and Chetak helicopters there as well. It's not only about replacing this almost 4-decade-old aging fleet of Cheetah and Chetak, but also about building an ecosystem so that we can have technology here, we can build on ourselves, and we can be self-reliant in terms of manufacturing helicopters further here onwards. So let's wait and watch as to what happens on the Kamov Ka-226T deal between India and Russia, and we'll keep on bringing you more developments on this. See you next week with a different topic and different set of guests. Till then, keep watching Rajya Sabha Television.